All right. So hello, everybody, and welcome to the Student Research and Creative Project panel. My name is Zach Hart, and I'm a professor in the Department of Communication and also co-chair of the Celebration of Student Research and Creativity, which is occurring virtually today and tomorrow. We have, I think, about 211 student presentations that really represent the wide breadth of research and creative work that's being done across campus. You can check those out by going to the Experiential Learning Week site. There's a link there as well as on the celebration site. So I really encourage you to do that. And you can definitely post questions and ask and make comments, and students will engage with you on that. Joining me today as a faculty moderator for the panel is Dr. Justin Yates from Psychological Sciences. He is the other co-chair of the Celebration for Student Research and Creativity. And we are very excited today to have 5 students on our panel who have been engaged in really amazing research and creative work. And I think that everyone will find extremely interesting. The way the panel will work, Dr. Yates and I will introduce each student. We're just going to go right into alphabetical order, and we'll introduce them prior to the start of their presentation. And then once all 5 presentations are done, we'll open it up for question and answers. And there's a Q&A link at the bottom of the screen that you can post questions, and we'll try to kind of field those. And we may ask some questions to ourselves. I would expect the panel will complete by about 3 o'clock. All right, so first up is Abdikadar Ali from who's a cybersecurity major, and we'll have him do his presentation first.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and let me go ahead and share my screen. Are you able to see my screen? Yes, sorry, yeah. So this is the project that I was involved in with my research mentor, Dr. Ankur, and there's another student that was also involved in, which is not here today, but I'm representing the whole group and showcasing our project. So our project was based on answering the question, what are the implications of security and privacy vulnerabilities and other flaws in social robots in terms of the alignment of IEEE guidelines, and there's other various trustworthy guidelines that has been provided by the industry. In this case, we used Europe's recommended guidelines and requirements for trustworthy AI, the Institute of Ethical and Alignment and Machine Learning that was based from MIT. Our project was focusing on social robots and whether they align on the trustworthy AI, as I just stated. We focused on 3 main social robots. Specifically, we have tested and analyzed Zoomy, and as well as Finch and Cosmo. By doing so, we were trying to kind of assess and analyze the design and flaws or vulnerabilities that exist in these devices. One of our research findings was finding that these devices didn't have proper authentication protocols in place, which we were able to find out that a user can easily connect to the Wi-Fi interface of these devices without no authentication being asked. That causes or fails the trustworthy AI guidelines and standards for this specific device. My partner, Danny, was focusing more on the facial detection and facial recognition aspect of these devices, and there was some various stories that these devices couldn't recognize a human being and kind of mistakenly recognized as we used these hominid images to kind of show them, and they recognized these as humans, which kind of violates the standards and the trustworthy AI. We were also able to kind of hack into these devices and provide some and provide the users and passwords that exist in the systems. And as you can see in this screenshot picture, that we were able to kind of connect to the Zoomy device through SSH protocol and kind of showcase the users and passwords that existed in this system. So this is a preliminary research project and it is still in progress. We kind of presented our work in the ACM CADASP conferences last night, by the way, and we have gotten some feedback, and some this research area has not been pursued or done. There has been some vulnerability research based on social robots that has been initially completed, but none as like the one we are doing, kind of aligning these social robots if they meet the Trustworthy AI with the guidelines that has been provided. One of our future contributions and future directions is kind of creating a privacy label for the consumers and the manufacturers, and showing them, hey, this is the kind of vulnerability that exists in this device, and telling that to the manufacturers. And we can also analyze and show these existing vulnerabilities to the user and give them an awareness of these existing vulnerabilities. So one of our future work will be collaborating with another students from New York University School and to kind of come and contribute to the privacy labels. That is an overview and the scope of our project. Thank you. Thank you, mute.
Hey, Zach, you're muted.
Sorry, thought I unmuted it. I clicked it, or I thought I did. Yeah, thank you, Abdikadar. I really appreciate your presentation. And like I said, we'll come back after all the student presentations and for questions and for you to get a chance to respond. So our second presenter today is Lilly Appelfeller, and she is a sports business major.
Hi there. Should I go ahead and share a presentation that I have, or should I just talk about it? What would be easier?
If you have something to share, you can share screen. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll do that. Let's get wild. All right, so give me 1 second. Is it showing up okay? Yeah, okay, perfect. Awesome. All right, well, my name is Lilly Appelfeller, and the project that I work on is the No Rivalry Project under Dr. Joe Cobbs. And I also work with Mi Doan, who is a freshman at Northern Kentucky University, as well as another student, Kelsey Sloan, out of UMass Amherst. So for our project, what we do is we're really trying to answer the question, can rivalry be measured? And why would we want to do this? Why is it important to understand competition? And those underlying questions are very foundational to just understanding the difference between in-groups and out-groups and how people socialize and the different social psychology that's involved. So rather than getting very convoluted and high level up here, what we did is we decided that we wanted to break things down and come up, well, actually Dr. Joe Cobbs and Dr. Tyler out of UMass, what they did is they've been working on this for several years, and they've identified some elements that are important to rivalry. And so what we did in our latest wave of survey respondents is we created a survey, and we go out onto different social media platforms and we talk to fans, and we want to know what they think. We want to know how they feel about their favorite teams or their not so favorite teams, and they fill out these surveys, and from what they respond is we collect all that data, and then we get to see, okay, well, this is how they feel about this competition, this rivalry, and we put all of these great numbers on it so we can actually measure rivalry and understand it better. My role in this project is down here at the bottom. It's reporting to the mass market and different academic and scholarship media what we're trying to do and helping people really understand why this work is important. And the different tiers you'll see here what we work in, but basically there's a human interest side, then there's national content, and then there's regional. And we do different media and publicity campaigns to publish our different waves of data as they come in. Right now, if you go to norivalry.com, you will see the newest website, and it's awesome. It's jazzy. It has all great graphics on it. You get to look at your different leagues and teams and what each team and their fans think of the other teams and their rivals, and it's great. I love the feedback. I love the comments from sports people. They never hold back on how they really feel. So I definitely encourage everyone who's watching this to go to norivalry.com and participate on the website with the survey. It approximately takes about 10 minutes, but it's definitely worth it. And we would love to hear from you about what you think when it comes to sports and your favorite teams and their rivals.
All right, thanks, Lily. Appreciate it. So next, we're going to announce or just have Rachael Lerch from the Department of Mathematics and Statistics present her research.
Okay, let me share my screen for us. Okay, so I worked on projects in the area of mathematics known as graph theory. I worked with BJ Ramal and Jack Shannon under Axel Brandt, and we studied a variation of cops and robbers on graphs, which is a type of pursuit evasion. So we were looking into when there's an invisible evader on a graph, how can pursuers locate them? This is really helpful for studying. Sometimes like mathematical biologists will use it for studying predator-prey dynamics. They'll use pursuit evasion games for that. And so we were studying it on a much smaller scale, looking into the Groch graph, the Peterson graph, and also split graphs. And that's about it for the projects. I mean, yeah, we looked at the different graph types. We were able to conclude that the robber is locatable on each of these different graph types. One of the big things about studying pursuit evasion games is, can the evader be located? And if so, how long does it take to locate them? And if they can't, do we need more pursuers? And after that, like, do we need more pursuers? And then, okay, now that we have more, what's the minimum number of turns required? And so that was the big focus of our research, was finding that minimum number of pursuers in order to locate an evader on different graph types.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Rachael. So we are actually missing a student. So I'm going to go ahead and announce Sara Steffen. So she's in the Department of Psychological Science, which is my home discipline. So it's really, really nice to be able to have her present her research.
Okay, I'll go ahead and share my screen as well. Let's see. Does that work? Maybe. Okay. Like Dr. Yates said, I'm Sara Steffen. I've been doing research in Dr. Barget's lab for 2 years now, so I've been kind of involved on many different projects. But this is the most recent one that I've presented on. So he works with a rodent model. So we look at the effect of antipsychotic drug treatments during developmental time periods. So it's basically like the equivalent of looking at like the effects of antipsychotic drugs if they were given to children, which they are. So it's an important aspect of research to understand how they might be affecting the kids. But this specific poster is about antipsychotic drug treatments that were administered during development and adulthood. But this was based on looking at the structure of neurons, which are the cells in the brain. So the idea behind the project was that if we're administering a drug that does have effects in the brain, then how does that affect a brain that's not fully developed yet? So we took these pictures of neurons that were stained using Golgi, which is extremely complicated, but it's a way of making sure that we can see cells after the fact. So we took pictures of these neurons, and then we used a computer program to trace like the structure. And then we were able to do a bunch of statistical analyses on the morphology of the neurons to see if there was a difference. Unfortunately, we didn't find any significant differences in any of our groups, but the sample size was extremely small. So it's not to say that this isn't a promising area of research, it's that we would probably need a bigger sample size to see anything of great significance, but it's definitely something interesting to consider because kids are given antipsychotic drugs. So if anything that we can understand about how they might be affecting them would be very important. So yeah. I think that should be it.
All right, thanks, Sara.
Okay, oh, wait, no, did she show up or not?
Hi, Gita, how's it going?
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and announce Gita Srinivasen.
Hi, I am so sorry about that. I've been having some horrible technical problems. Hello, my name is Gita. I am so happy to be here as part of Experiential Learning Week. I'm here because I got to work with Dr. Joan Ferrante over last summer in getting to do research with her for her project called Mourning the Creations of Racial Categories. And I had the opportunity to help create and curate music for her project. I first found out about the project after getting to be a part of the orchestra's production of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Dr. Joan Ferrante attended and then came to me after and invited me to be a part of the project. And I'm so glad that I said yes, because I've learned so much from getting to work with Dr. Ferrante on this project. And a little bit about me is that I'm a cellist, a performer, and a teacher right now by training. And in the fall, I'm going to go to Illinois State University to get more experience in performance and teaching as I pursue my master's degree in music performance.
So thank you, Gita, and thank you to everybody for some very interesting presentations. So we will open it up now for the Q&A. So I think our audience or the other attendees can type in their questions under the Q&A, and we'll kind of monitor that. Dr. Yates and I may go ahead and ask some questions too, just to kind of get things going. We won't type those in the Q&A, we'll just ask them through here. So maybe, I guess I'll start, just to give people time to think about something, I'll go ahead and start with a question, and then Justin, I don't know if you want to ask one after that, and we'll kind of just go with that. So, so I'll start with Abdikadar. So one question I had in terms of the idea of trustworthy AI guidelines, I'm just kind of curious, first of all, so how are those ethics kind of developed? You know, how does that get proposed and identified? And then what goes into programming those ethical guidelines into a social robot?
Yeah, that's a great question. Some of the AI guidelines and trustworthy standards that we referenced to in this project was IEEE is one, and that came live into 2018, the start of 2019. And so the way this crafted or developed just more over the industry community by just kind of setting up the standards for trustworthy AI, saying this is not like a law, this is more of a standard and guidelines of whether intelligent systems or AI devices should adhere to or kind of align their designs and functionalities. So the one we focused on had, I think if I shared my screen, one of them was data agency and well-being and human rights. And so a device or these social robots kind of, they are smart enough to kind of hurt the human rights of a human, or kind of put the user's privacy at stake. So these guidelines are kind of created. There are other various guidelines that are out in the industry. One is the Eurobus guidelines, and there's some others, MIT, that have been proposed. So what we were trying in this project was mainly kind of analyzing how these devices, functionalities, and structure align to these standards. And this is a new research topic, so it has not been done. And the good thing is that we got an application. That's an exciting, and we are going into full paper about this topic and continue analyzing and exploring more this topic.
Okay. Thank you for that response. I would imagine, part of it too is just how do you build trust between people and a social robot, and so that those are going to be really, really important in terms of what are those guidelines and trusting them with information. We do have a number of questions posted in the Q&A, so I think they're the first couple are for pretty much everybody, so I'll just throw that first question out and then whoever wants to respond first, we can go ahead. So first question is, how did you decide to do the work that you did? Did a professor ask you, or did you ask them? And if each of you want to talk a little bit about how that happened with your projects, that'd be great.
I'll go ahead and start with that.
Okay.
So my project started back in the summer of 2020. And before that, in the spring of 2020, I had the opportunity to be involved in an introduction to cybersecurity class, where I happened to like it. And my professor at the time asked me to be involved, or, kind of be a part of his research project and become his RA. So that is how I get involved in this project, kind of just like the professor approaching me and asking me if I wanted to do a research. And it was my first time, no idea what was an undergrad research was all about. I give it a try, and yeah, today I'm here and kind of, enjoyed a lot and learned so much along the road. So yeah, that is how I get involved.
Okay. How about you, Lily?
I got involved because my professor sent out an email when I was taking a sports class, and so I was like, oh, this will be fun. I like sports. I watch a lot of basketball and European football, not American football, sorry. And I took a sports class in fall semester, then I did an assistantship for this semester, and then I got awarded a fellowship for this upcoming summer. So this will be my kind of third semester working with the same professor. I'm pretty sure, I started laughing because I'm pretty sure Dr. Cobbs is in the room. So, hey, Dr. Cobbs. Yeah, he's the coolest of the cool people. And I'm not just saying that because he's in the room. I really like working with him, and the team's great too. So that's another reason why I'm staying. So other than just getting the email, it's just when you work with such great people and it's all about the research and how much fun it is, it just kind of keeps itself going. It's self-perpetuating.
Great. Rachael, how did you get started?
So last spring, I was fortunate enough to take a course with Dr. Brandt in combinatorics and graph theory. And I had been talking to Dr. Brandt about being interested in participating in summer research, and I thought graph theory was really cool. And so he emailed me actually different opportunities that NKU has for funding summer research and participating in it. So we worked together to apply for one, and that's how I got involved.
Great, great. How about Gita? I know you talked a little bit about it, but was there any more you want to add?
Sure. So What I wanted to add was just how I guess always just be prepared to I don't know, make really beautiful like opportunities out of the opportunities that you're already doing in your own field. I remember the Beethoven, we just call it Beethoven 9. It was a huge project and it was really, really labor intensive and really exciting, but also extremely challenging to prepare. And I remember just being so, it took all hands on deck to prepare it. And I was so grateful for everything and everyone that I got to speak to after, especially Dr. Joan Ferrante. And I remember going to a workshop to which she invited me after after that program, and I got to learn so much about how to navigate race and how to navigate I don't know how to just contribute to an ongoing like discourse on race in terms of like the American historical and political landscape as a musician. And that's something I never thought I would be able to do or say. So I don't know, I'm really grateful to NKU for connecting me with Dr. Joan Ferrante, and I'm really grateful to Dr. Joan Ferrante for helping me do something really, really meaningful with my craft.
And finally, Sara, how was your connection made?
Yeah, so I guess it would be 2 years already ago now, but I took a biopsychology with Dr. Barget, and towards the end of the semester, he reached out asking if I wanted to work in his lab. And I said yes. Well, I had already been kind of thinking about needing to get into a lab because part of the neuroscience curriculum is an experiential learning component. And there's multiple ways that you can do it. But I was interested in being involved in research already. I just hadn't reached out to anyone yet because I thought I was too young to like get a spot in a lab because I wasn't an upper level student yet. But then Dr. Barget reached out and I've been in his lab ever since. So yeah.
Great, thank you. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Yates, see if you want to ask another one or pick one out of the Q&A.
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and pick out the next question. I might piggyback on the question that this person asked. So they asked, would you participate in a research project like this again? What was your favorite part? And so then what I would like to just add to that is, what was the most challenging aspect of research? You think, you're trying to balance research and classes, and if you're working other jobs. So I'm just interested to hear your perspective on how some of the challenges you may have encountered while doing research, as well as like the favorite part of it. So if it's cool, I'll go reverse order this time. I'll start with Sara since she has to go somewhere here soon. So we'll go reverse order.
Okay, so I was actually lucky enough to have a paid position in the lab. So I kind of killed two birds with one stone. I got to do research and I used it as a job. So I wasn't trying to squeeze in all this extra research on top of a job. So it was lucky that I got that opportunity. But my favorite part of research, I'd say, is just, I don't know, feeling like the stuff that you're learning in class is like real. Sometimes when you're in class, you're like, what the heck, why am I even doing this? But then you work in the lab and you can see how all of the things that are taught in the classes do actually apply to real life in a way. So that was my favorite part because it's like reassuring that all the work that I'm doing in class is helping me in my research as well. And I would do research again. If I had to do college over again, I definitely would be involved in research again because I think that was probably my favorite part of college, was like working in a research lab. I don't know, I think it's cool. I can tell my friends like I work in a research lab. I just thought it was cool. So yeah, I would definitely do it again. Did I hit all of the questions that were asked?
What was the most challenging part of doing research?
Challenging part. I think the most challenging was applying for a summer research fellowship that I got awarded last summer, but it got derailed by COVID. So I was applying and all of this, and then I submitted the application in like the beginning of March, and then COVID happened, and like I was kind of worried that like everything would get derailed, which it did. I didn't get to do my original project. So that was, I guess, the most challenging, was adapting to like the things that I had to work around, like the pandemic and stuff. I couldn't be on campus, so I had to adapt an entire new research project that I could do from home. So that was the most challenging part.
Thank you, Sarah. Gita.
So I think the most exciting part and the most challenging part of getting to do this research with Dr. Joan Ferrante for morning creations of racial categories was actually just creating the music, because I didn't have composition experience. And what I did in helping in contributing to the project was I did a lot of improvisation on my instrument, which is the cello, and I did compositions based on improvisations and just based on what I thought could possibly work for the project. And I think the hardest part was just doing it for the first time, but then realizing that it was something that I could do and that I could do well, especially with feedback from the people I had the opportunity to work with Dr. Joan Ferrante's team. I think it was also really challenging because I worked with Dr. Ferrante last summer throughout the pandemic, and she had this really great public presentation for her documentary planned. And she had a lot of like in-person events planned, but you know, the pandemic happened, and obviously, you know, racism did not stop over the pandemic. And it's something that I think we like could not ignore in the project, and like we had to give like special attention and like extra I don't know, sensitivity to, because it is a project about bringing awareness to race through the lens of mourning and the lens of sadness, if that makes sense, through like compassion, and then being, you know, mourning the fact that this is like a structure that we have sort of consciously, subconsciously created as a society. But I think that my inspiration was definitely the artwork. So what we decided to do was, well, Dr. Ferrante decided to create this art show in the Fine Arts Building, and she was going to assign a piece of music for every piece to kind of help narrate the story of every piece of artwork. And so I would give a sample or create like a 2-minute piece of music that could help express the emotion that I saw in the piece of artwork. I would read the literature that Dr. Ferrante and her team sent me that was associated with the particular part of the story of the documentary and with the artwork. And I would create some music, and then I would get some feedback from the team that I got to work with in terms of how I can make it a little bit more emotionally specific. And then I would like tweak it and then present it again. Yeah, I hope that answers everybody's questions.
I think so. Thank you, Gita. So Rachel.
Okay. So if I got the opportunity, I would definitely participate in research again. It was a really great experience. I really enjoyed it. And also it was really interesting. I think my favorite part was when I was working so hard to get a result, and then I found something that worked. And like when you get that answer, it feels so good. And being able to sit down and prove it and realize that you have evidence to back up like what you came up with. And I think the most challenging part, as they touched on, so I did this last summer, summer 2020, and we had to do it completely virtually. So some of the communication and collaboration was kind of difficult because I worked with 2 other people and an advisor. And so we were working on meeting online while also working on our own. And so that was probably the biggest challenge we had to deal with, was like communicating with each other and figuring out a good way to do that and listening to each other.
Awesome. Great. Thank you, Rachel. Lily.
Probably the hardest part of this project is this hardest part of most research projects is getting the data, which is always really fun when you're in a pandemic and you can't talk to anyone. So you got to do it all virtually. But I think that our team is fantastic in rising to challenges and understanding that if we work together and we pool all of our resources and all of our experiences together, we can come up with really creative solutions to getting our survey out there, to figuring out different ways of contacting people. And the part of the project that I'm on, specifically with media and publicity, it's taking this academic research and articulating it to the general public and helping them understand what we're about and what we're trying to accomplish, which has its challenges. But the great thing is our team is absolutely wonderful, and the people that I work with are just so tenacious and determined. So really the challenges, they seem daunting at first, but when you're surrounded by people that are really enthusiastic about learning and about participating and about being involved, it really doesn't last that long. You're kind of like, oh, well, we're in this together. It's kind of like, well, if the boat's sinking, we're going to be in this little ship together and we got it. And then you realize that the boat's not really sinking and you're doing fine. So the challenges are pretty similar to probably what anyone else would go through. But our team, we got it. We're superstars, full confidence.
Awesome. Thank you, Lily. Abdikadar.
I think it was a good challenge, and having the opportunity to kind of do a research. I think the most challenging and exciting part was for me answering a question that has not been answered, kind of knowing where to go, and this kind of gives you the experimental learning and doing things on your own and finding a solution to a problem. So yeah, that was my challenging part of trying to find something which is not out there and kind of exploring those. And but it will give you the drive and opportunity to learn on your own and find a product or a solution to a problem.
All right, fantastic. Thank you.
So I guess there was a question for Gita, but I think you answered that. You talked about the inspiration. So there was an individual one. So the next 2 questions are very similar. So I'll kind of combine those. So this is a question about what advice would you give to other students interested in doing either research or creative work? Abdikadar, why don't you go ahead and take that one first? Go back the other way.
If you're doing research now, you're doing great. And this is, if you're not doing research, but you're thinking about it, I would say go for it. This will make you grow intellectually. Kind of opens lots of opportunities. This could be a grad school, this could be grants, this could be networking. I would say if you want to do research, my best advice is be curious, never fail, or kind of be worried of asking questions. Research is all about questions and finding answers to those questions. So communication, make sure you work with your team and have the drive and passion for it. It could be a daunting and challenging to do a research for the first time. But my best advice is get a balance of everything, enjoy the process, and then be open to opportunities, because research has lots of opportunities.
Great, thanks. Lily, what advice would you offer?
My first advice is to learn to love coffee. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. It's bad for your health. But my real advice is everything that was just said was just so wonderfully articulated that there really isn't much that I could add on to it. I can't, explain enough how great it is to work with the other students and to work with the faculty, and how whenever we have questions, I always encourage people. No matter how stupid you think it is, someone else is probably thinking it too. And just ask whoever's in charge, ask the faculty. Like, there are so many times where I go to Dr. Cobbs and I'm like, I have no idea what any of this means. And he's like, that's what I'm here for. So work with everyone else around you. Don't be afraid to get involved in it and be a part of this amazing, research journey, because that's what it is about. You're doing this so that you can learn things and take not just the data and the collection with you in the future, but also these experiences, the skill sets, and just the social ability into your career in the future. So that's really what I would tell people going into this, is don't be afraid to ask questions and really rely on the people around you, because that's what they're there for. They're supposed to help you and support you.
All right. Thanks, Lily. Rachel, what else would you offer in terms of advice?
So I think one of the other really big things for research would be, if it's something you're interested in, don't be afraid to talk to your professors about it, because most of them are really open to talking to students about research projects or getting them connected to other professors so that they can participate and find a project that works best for them. Because I think that was a really big thing for me that helped me get involved. And then the other thing I would say is, don't be afraid to be wrong, because this is research. You're looking into questions that maybe don't have answers. And so a lot of times you're going to get it wrong before you get it right. And you may never get it right, but that's okay. Don't be afraid to mess up.
Thank you, Rachel. Gita, how about on the creative side? Is there anything a little different in terms of the advice?
Actually, I don't think so. I think I have to agree with what Rachel said. Don't be afraid to get it wrong. Because on the creative side, something that you think would be really effective musically, or just for your artistic medium, it might not land the way that you think it does. And it's okay. I think just being, brave enough to put something out there, even if it's not effective, and then just really wanting to listen and apply all the feedback you possibly can on changing, whatever it is that you're doing, even if it's creative work like what I'm doing, or if it's research, then I think the same fundamental rules apply. And then I think my other piece of advice is just keep an open mind in all that you're doing, because if it weren't for Beethoven 9, and if it weren't for orchestra, I don't think I would have gotten the opportunity to meet Dr. Ferrante. And she, she works in anthropology and, social history. And I'm so honored that I had the opportunity to get to meet her just through, a simple exchange after a performance, and I think that kind of thing can happen for anyone. Keep an open mind and listen to what other people have to say, especially if it's at an event where you might not be expecting to be networking or meeting someone who's outside of your field, who's really interested in what you have to potentially offer to a project that they're doing. Just, in all that you do and all that you study, just remember to always know why you're doing it, and to retain a bit of enthusiasm, even when it's really, really challenging, because someone might see what you're doing and want to collaborate with you. And when you get to do opportunities like this, it's a game changer, and it, makes you into the best possible, I guess, ambassador of your craft, and it changes how you approach it. It's made me a more critical thinker. It's made me more self-aware. It's made me understand a little bit more how I navigate the world, and it's changed how I listen and approach my music. So I hope that's helpful.
Great, thank you, Gita. Sara, anything to kind of wrap that one up?
No, I mean, I just agree with what everyone was saying. Just a little piece of advice I would have is, it doesn't really apply to me because I was asked to be in a research lab, but I would say if anyone is interested in being in a research lab, I don't think it would ever hurt if you would just like reach out or like do some research on like what the faculty members are doing research on. And if it's something you would be interested in, then just reach out, because the worst they could do is say no. So better to shoot your shot than to miss out. So that would be my advice.
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. Justin, you want to go to the next
I was
one?
just going to go to the next question. So someone asked, how has your research creative work impacted your career plans? So with this, because we're getting close to when Sara needs to leave, I'll go ahead and let her answer first. And then I think I'm going to just kind of mix it up and go in a random order.
Okay. Yeah. So actually, when I first got involved in research, I was kind of set on graduate school. That's kind of that's what I thought where my life would go. So research was really well aligned with that. But because of the pandemic and just the way things are working out, graduate school didn't really work out for me. So I actually got a job at MedPace. So it's still in the realm of research. I'm just switching basically preclinical to now the clinical side. So I think being a student researcher really gave me advantage in, I think, getting a job. So I thought I was planning for graduate school, but it turns out it worked out for getting a job as well. So I think whether you have plans, they might change, but they might change for the better. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Sara. Real quick, so do you plan on reapplying like next year, or are you pretty content?
Yeah, I haven't really decided yet. Things are still kind of crazy. I'm not too keen on school during a pandemic. I'm not really built for online world. So I'd have to do some serious reconsideration of like how things would work out, but it's not off the table 100%. So yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So I'm just going to go Abdikadar. I'm going to go to you next.
Yeah, doing research kind of made me, a problem solver. It opened lots of opportunities. That includes my current internship. Also, as a cybersecurity student, my plan was just going to graduate and deep dive into the industry, then work. But doing a research, then attending conferences, networking, meeting people. Then now I'm planning to go to grad school for cloud computing. Yeah, that kind of changed quickly. Throughout 3 semesters now, I'm kind of trying to apply for grad school, which kind of influenced by my research work.
Awesome. That's great to hear. All right. I'm going to go to Gita next.
So I think that getting to do the creative work that I've done with Dr. Ferrante, especially in a pandemic, it's forced me to ask better questions and to listen more and to just approach everything in music from a more compassionate lens, because there's so much that you're missing in terms of, taking lessons, giving lessons as a teacher, and all things in music. Sometimes you're missing out because you're only seeing this much of the person on the other side. And I've learned to ask more specific questions about the issues that people are finding in like my teaching. And I think, that's something that I had to learn from working on music in a pandemic, on, through Zoom meetings and listening to feedback, getting feedback and applying it in a pandemic. And yeah, I think in a way it's influenced me in being more thoughtful and maybe even more passionate about my approach to teaching. And it's it influenced my decision in a way in picking a grad school. I applied to Illinois State University, and I realized that it like was a perfect fit for me for grad school because it's a smaller school, and it's a place where I would get to do a little bit of everything because I would have to, because they just have a smaller student population, and they need people to do a little bit of everything in terms of like performing in bigger ensembles and smaller ensembles. And the class sizes and the studio sizes in terms of like how many teachers there are to people learning from them in a music studio setting, the numbers were really low. So I will get to do everything. And part of the scholarship that they offered me is for me to teach through their chapter of String Project, where kids learn how to play string instruments in a group setting, and to teach in a private lesson setting. So I would get to teach cello lessons, hopefully in person, there. And I think that everything that I've learned in terms of online teaching and online communication here in a pandemic, I think can very directly be applied for in-person music exchange. And a lot of that I got to learn with Dr. Fronte.
Awesome. Also, congratulations on getting the graduate program. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
So then, Rachael, I'll go to you next.
Okay, so participating in research, as many of them have mentioned, has definitely given me more of a perspective on whether or not I want to do grad school, because the work we did over the summer was sort of an intro of, if I did go to grad school, this is some of the stuff you might be looking at if I were to pick graph theory, or just in general, looking at problems and writing proofs and that sort of thing. So it gave me some more insight of what grad school would actually be like and whether or not that's something that I have an interest in.
Great. Thanks, Rachael. And then finally, Lilly.
Yeah. For me, I was going to go to law school, and then I did this and I was like, I don't want to go to law school anymore. This is a lot more fun. I like this stuff better. So I decided to focus more on media, marketing, graphic design, kind of change the whole course of the future. So you never know when you get involved in these research projects, what's going to happen. You could solve world hunger, or you could decide not to go to law school. So highly encourage the experience.
All right, well, thanks everybody. So there's a couple of kind of, not everybody necessarily has to answer these questions. So maybe we can just raise our hand, you can raise your hand and then I'll call on you. So there's a question about whether you would, beyond this presentation, if you had presented at a conference or some other kind of celebration and what that was like. Have any of you had experience doing that? Rachael, you want to talk about that? And then I'll see.
Okay, we presented at the KAS conference, the Kentucky Academy of Science, and so we presented as a group there. It was actually an interesting experience. Similar to this, it was conducted online virtually, and it took a lot of preparation. So what we did for the conference was we planned out our talks and recorded them, and then they uploaded them on the website for anyone to go and watch. And then we did a Q&A. It was a really great experience. We had to talk more about our research and have more in-depth answers available to provide more insight into what we did.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Abdikadar, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to kind of present a research project on various multiple conferences, especially one of them was ACM, which we did yesterday's night, yeah. And another one was National Council of Research undergrad. The third one was NSA's Center of Academic Excellence conference, which we did in August. So with all these conferences that we attended and presented our work, give us lots of opportunities. We we've been asked multiple questions that kind of solved our answers that we're looking for. We have received feedback and suggestions as to how to approach this type of research. We also even found people who are willing to kind of work with us, provide some supplemental or mentorship or help on. They wanted to kind of give us some insights and kind of give us some help to work with us. And also, I've also got some grad school opportunities through these conferences. I've met some advisors through these conferences that kind of give me some contacts and networking that asked me to consider their schools. So it was lots of opportunities, kind of, having the opportunity to showcase and represent NKU with my research work through NSAs, at that level, and meeting the nation's leading cyber, people, kind of gives you all this, bigger picture of how, opportunities can just sneak in through just taking, what you have to do, and just be open to challenges and take on. I think it is a great opportunity to take on research, and I'll advise, you could be a freshman, sophomore, senior. Research is a great thing and kind of fulfills your experimental learning throughout college.
Great, thank you very much. Had anyone else? Did anyone else raise their hand? Okay. We're down to 3 minutes. Justin, I don't know if you want to ask one last final question or.
I saw one question about alumni participating in research, so I could try to answer that, because I don't know, that's a question that the student, our panelists could answer, but yes and no. So it's kind of hard. So for example, I'm an animal researcher like Dr. Barjay. So Sara talked about the research that she conducted with him. So we're in a secure research facility. So if you're an alumni, you may not have like an all card that allows you to get access into the research facility. However, though, for individuals like Dr. Barjay and myself, we have federal grant funding. So we get funded through the National Institutes of Health. So we can hire a full-time post-baccalaureate technician. So in that sense, an alumni could get involved with research by becoming a full-time technician and working in the lab. So for example, Dr. Barjay had an individual named Tyler who graduated from NKU and worked in Dr. Barjay's lab as a technician for several years. He just ended up getting a new job at Cincinnati Children's Hospital doing research with them. So I just wanted to address that really quickly. Other than that, we have a couple minutes left. So at this point, I would just kind of want to say thank you to our panelists for taking the time out. I know this is a really busy time of year for you guys, getting ready for finals, just getting final projects done. So we really appreciate your time, and we appreciate the answers that you've given. So thank you so much. You all did a great job.
And all your projects are really interesting. I know I started out with a very specific one about Abdikadar's project. And I had questions for all of you. I might still follow up with you because I find them all really interesting. And I think that's one of the things that excites us a lot as faculty, not only having students engaged and being able to talk about it and just, such an interesting way, and that you're really learning things from the work that you're doing. And a lot of this work is very helpful and beneficial to people as well. And that makes it very, very exciting. So thank you all for doing a great job presenting, and enjoy the rest of your semester. And hopefully next year we'll do this in person. So, all right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much.
All right, are we good?
I'm like, are we off?
I guess we're done. Yeah.